appeal to tennis fans. You're going to have a small base, and then tennis is stuck in the way it has always been, which is very much often seen as an elitist sport. Umpiring in the sport of tennis is so poorly regulated. I think it starts with the fact that it's not paid in any way. I think the idea of it just being entirely expenses definitely draws in sometimes the wrong people, for people who are hunting for, fame or favours or anything like that.
The player's talking to him like he's like almost like, well, not his mate, but like literally someone he can just like argue with, then I think where's the line for like respect there? There's no accountability. There's people making decisions. No. We don't know like who these people are, and then at the end of the day, it's the umpires who go out there and have to bear the brunt of it. But really, there should be like clear training, clear rules, and they just go out there and execute it. Yeah, welcome back to the Getting a Grip Tennis podcast. This is the first in a line of debate series episodes because basically we don't have anything else to talk about. Although it is the middle of Wimbledon, but there's no point really trying to go into detail about what's going on because things change literally hour by hour. So we're going to do a debate instead. And obviously the main topic to talk about is this whole Kyrgios-Tsitsipas matchup and how it relates to like outbursts on the court and how it's umpired, how like players are penalized, all that kind of stuff. Merlin is going to take up the side of Kyrgios in this case, and obviously I'm going to attempt to defend Tsitsipas, although there's some things that can't be defended. And then we're going to
If I'm taking up the side of Kyrgios, do I have to do it in an Australian accent?
No, don't worry about that.
Okay. That's probably a good thing because I can't really do one. Shrimp on the Barbie. Yeah, there you go. That's all you'll get.
What's the other one? Oh, he's a ripper of a bloke.
I mean, I've not heard that one, but you have spent time there.
Absolute ripper.
Maybe you should do Kyrgios.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah. What did he say after today's match? It was like, oh, I'm going to need to have a glass of wine after that or something. Which is...
Yeah, I think we all needed a glass of wine after what happened on that Wimbledon court. It was an absolute thrilling match, watching Kyrgios take Tsitsipas in 4 sets, but unfortunately, it was two of the most controversial characters in our game, bringing two of their probably most controversial appearances to date.
Yeah, let's give it some context. I mean, people will most likely know how the match unfolded, but basically, I think the first set was fairly normal, like what you call a normal set of tennis. There wasn't like
there was actually a very central underarm under the leg serve from Kyrgios, which I think started to rile the likes of Tsitsipas up. That sort of thing, as he says, is a bit like bullying. So who knows?
Here we go. It started. Bullying can take many forms. One of those forms is a tweener serve, I'll have you know. So yeah, I think Kyrgios is his kind of chatting to the umpire. I think it did start in the first set. There was a couple of times where he swore like under his breath. I think he had a conversation with the umpire.
It started at 5-5 in the first set.
Right,
when Tsitsipas first hit a ball, and basically the argument started where Kyrgios was like, well, you just default him. Like, what's the problem? I don't understand why you're not defaulting him. It's 5-5. He can't win that game. You can't give him, it's a game penalty for something like that because it had gone to 6-5 at that point. So he kept saying, oh, it's 5-5. It's 5-5. And he was very unhappy with the decisions at that point.
Wasn't that I'm sure it was in the second set because Kyrgios, Tsitsipas won the first set. 7-6,
but that was after all of that 5-5 sort of nonsense.
Yeah, so my argument is going to be that Kyrgios is the one that it all started with him basically because he was arguing about there's some line call set him off initially as it usually does, and then obviously he started like having a go at the umpire and just like generally getting riled up, and then he swore while he was talking to the umpire, and then there was other times again
that was his first code violation.
Did he get a code violation for that one?
Well, yeah, because it's audible obscenity to the crowd.
So that the first one's always a warning, the second one's a loss of a point, the third one's a loss of a game, and then I think the fourth one's like the match or whatever. But then he also swore like a few times after that, and he was still muttering like between points and like just before he was like serving or returning. A couple of the line judges went up to the umpire. Obviously that was what they were talking to the umpire about, like they'd heard him swear or whatever. The umpire didn't really say anything. So then basically it was like Kyrgios has kind of got free reign to just continue doing this because he's not getting penalised for it. And then I could see that like it's going to wind Tsitsipas up. He's trying to like stay super like unemotional, but we know like what he's like, and he can only hold on for so long. And then I think it was towards the end of the second set, or when he lost the second set, and he just completely like lost it and smashed it into the crowd or whatever. My argument is that Kyrgios should have been defaulted even before that happened, because if they'd have followed the actual rule book, then he would have lost a point. He already had a warning. He would have lost a point. He would have lost a game. And then I'm sure literally like almost shouting at the umpire or like arguing with the umpire and constantly talking counts as like some other code violation. So by that point, I think he should have probably defaulted the match. And that's probably what also riled Tsitsipas up to then hit a ball. Obviously, he was quite lucky that it didn't hit someone in the crowd. But I guess you're going to argue that Tsitsipas should have been defaulted. What's your kind of like view on that?
My role in this debate is originally was decided to be a bit of devil's advocate. We knew we were going to do something about controversies in the sport, how code violations, how point deductions, game deductions, and then eventually being defaulted from a match. I was going to be devil's advocate to this. Again, this debate is contextual because obviously it's Wimbledon at the moment for those of you that are listening. But obviously the idea is that this debate represents a lot more within tennis, and hopefully we'll have a little bit of a conclusion, or at least a couple of opinions at the end that are a bit better formed and constructed as to maybe where the sport needs to go to address this. I think normally we have quite similar opinions, but the only issue I had with this entire match is that Kyrgios was never wrong. So there were audible obscenities, I'll agree with you. But my problem is that even though he was shouting at the umpire was wrong the entire time. But you're arguing the same thing in an essence. So whilst I'm in Kyrgios' side, and whilst you're on Tsitsipas's side, kind of, it's still the case that the umpire didn't really do anything, which is half the problem. Like I say, there's a range of reasons which we'll talk about in a second. But fundamentally, I think that Tsitsipas should have been defaulted. And I think that Kyrgios got his code violations and was only put in the position he was because of the inevitable that never actually happened.
Yeah, I guess let's talk about the wider point about tennis as like an entertainment product per se, because the argument's going to be Kyrgios often mentions this in like press conferences or post-match interviews where he's like, well, look, every time I play it's like a full stadium or whatever. So the argument there is, should there be more room for like, I don't know, get more gamesmanship or like trash talking, not necessarily trash talking in a traditional sense, but like trying to get under the opponent's skin a little bit, trying to get the crowd involved more. Is like, does that fit with tennis in your view? Do you think it should become more of like an entertainment product like that? Because I know like some people we've spoken to have said, it actually makes it more interesting, and like I'm more likely to tune in if there's a bit more like needle to it. Spice. So I don't know, what do you think about
that? I got two sort of sides to that. The first thing is, and foremost, it is an entertainment product, and by trying to treat it as anything other than like any other sport where you've got to appeal to a wider audience, if you only appeal to tennis fans, you're going to have a small base, and then tennis is stuck in the way it has always been, which is very much often seen as an elitist sport. However, whilst I say that we need obviously that entertainment aspect, we also need respect for the umpires. Problem is, the respect isn't the issue from the player side. I think it's an issue institutionally, and I think that umpire training, having been through some of it, is quite poor and leaves a lot of decisions to be made. But there's a whole other range of things that we've actually spoken about briefly in the past about why umpiring in the sport of tennis is so poorly regulated. I think it starts with the fact that it's not paid in any way. I think the idea of it just being entirely expenses definitely draws in sometimes the wrong people, for people who are hunting for, fame or favors or anything like that.
So are these like these main umpires that we see like on the main courts, literally like all the Grand Slams, the Masters events, even these top umpires, are they not paid? They must be paid.
In this country, they're not paid. No, they're not paid. It's an entirely basically it's an entirely a hobby. It's something that people do because they enjoy it, and it's like the line umpires. The line umpires in a match, especially a five-setter, they get changed quite regularly, and you get whole new teams coming on during those bigger breaks. So, like I say, there's a good changeover, and line umpiring is not really an issue. I think that's fine. But when it comes to chair umpiring, a lot of the time there are the wrong people there. When we talk about football, for example, we know that players don't have a huge amount of respect for the ref, but the ref has powers to enforce of, say, a yellow card and a red card. And at least by having those really clear boundaries, we say clear boundaries, but clear boundaries to most of the public who watch the sport, then it becomes much more sensible. Problem is there aren't clear enough boundaries in tennis. The rules are complicated enough as it is, and that leaves too much wiggle room for decision making, which in most of the cases is always wrong from the umpire's point of view. So there's that as well. But yeah.
So you, if I'm going to get an answer out of you think that there is some room for it to be, a bit more needle there, but there still needs to be a line there. Like where is that line?
I think we need a cold hard line. I think we need to cut talking out, and I think we need to. Well, I say talking. I think we need to cut out sort of having a go at someone else. Let's put it that way. But talking to the umpire, having a dispute with an umpire, that's completely natural. It happens in all lower grade tournaments anyway, because there is no control from the umpire. They're almost a spectator who calls out the score at this point. And then every now and then when they make a decision, people don't respect it because why should they? So I know you want a cold hard answer, but it's too complicated. There is no answer. We have to remember as well, tennis is a head-to-head sport, especially in singles. People are going to get riled up. You're meant to get under each other's skin, but with the tennis, not with stupid rules that aren't being enforced.
Yeah, because obviously it is like a hugely kind of mental game, as it is with like most sports at the top level. I think things like, for example, I don't know, if for today, for example, like Kyrgios is obviously serving like super quick, like he's in between points. It's literally like serve it, get the ball, move to the next point, serve it, and there's like literally like 5-10 seconds between it. I think there's areas for like mind games to happen where you can, like, I don't know, the returner, you can take your time a bit more and just kind of like try and slow him down. Or like, I'm sure Nadal, I know he's got all this like superstitions, but it's almost like a way of him being able to like control the pace of the match. So there's room for things like that. That's fine. But I think you're right when it comes to like, there wasn't any direct confrontation. It was obviously more through the umpire. But apart from like Tsitsipas hitting the ball at him and stuff, which is,
but the umpire didn't do anything.
By the by,
that's the issue. The umpire didn't do anything. Most of the time, you can do a little code violation, but if you're not talking to the player, if you're not discussing things with the players, then you're not going to get any answers. And the umpire, quite frankly, didn't pay Kyrgios any respect when talking to him. The same happened recently. What was it? The Australian Open? Was it the US Open? I can't remember. With Medvedev.
Australian,
The Australian Open, with Medvedev. Semi-final of a Grand Slam, as he put it. You can't have an umpire who just doesn't listen to a player. Like, the one thing, you're there to not only judge the match and ensure the match goes well, but you're also there from an entertainment point of view. You can't have someone having a mental breakdown in front of you and not do anything about it and not try and stop it.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I actually feel like umpires shouldn't be engaging with them as much. I think kind of the opposite, because I think that just like if the player's talking to him like he's like almost like, well, not his mate, but like literally someone he can just like argue with, then I think where's the line for like respect there? But this all comes back to, it's not even necessarily the umpires themselves, it's the leadership above. It's like it almost feels like they go out there and they're almost like making it up as they go along. They don't know, like, is this, do I accept this, do I give it more leeway for this certain player because he's like Kyrgios, he's going to push it a little bit more. And then we saw the match referees, obviously the guy above the umpire, come out and talk to Kyrgios, but he didn't even respect him because there's like no consistency with
but where's that guy been?
Yeah, exactly.
What's he come on to do? It's just like, oh, okay, well, I'm a referee, you do this, and then I'll go away now and you won't see me again. Like, you can't take respect from someone who's not present, who's not watching the match. Like, you need someone on the court. So really, we need to forget referees and umpires. We just need to make it one thing per match. That's what I would say is probably a better option. Final decisions go to umpires, but clear rule books are made. And unfortunately, there seem to be like I say, like VAR. We look for yes or no in football, and yes, sometimes we're not sure whether the answer is yes or no based on what VAR shows us. But we're looking for yes or no, did that happen? Rather than, oh, well, if that happens, then I suppose he could give him this rule, or he could give him this rule, or he could do that, or he could do nothing if he so wishes to give extra leadway. And that's not acceptable. It needs to be black and white.
Yeah, it needs reform. There needs to be like, I don't know about necessarily like one thing that might be a bit harsh, but I can see what you mean. Like, it needs to be, it's a bit wishy-washy. And
take audible obscenity, for example. Okay, you create a list of swear words. Done. We all know what they all are. It's not like anyone's under any disillusions as to what they are. If someone's shouting, okay, fair enough. But you give them, say, maybe one or two instances, and then you throw the book at that. But if someone swears, immediately gone. The likes of Murray, for example, sometimes under his breath or like towards the crowd or something like that, that should be straight away. Should be picked up. No, can't have it. Because again, like, who have you also got watching the sport? You've got children watching the sport. You need to instill that respect and help people understand how to act accordingly on a tennis court.
Yeah, with the swear words, I don't even think that's a consistent thing across tournaments or Grand Slams. Like, I know Wimbledon, it's like they have like a list of swear words and it's in different languages and all that stuff. But other Grand Slams, nothing.
No, exactly. But that needs to be something the ATP Tour does.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the ATP and the LTA are very, very bad at doing these sorts of things. They don't publish guidance. They're just basically, well, the LTA especially. I don't really know what they have all that money for.
Yeah, so it feels like there's people, like, there's no accountability. There's people making decisions. No. We don't know like who these people are, and then at the end of the day, it's the umpires who go out there and have to bear the brunt of it. But really, there should be like clear training, clear rules, and they just go out there and execute it basically. And you don't want to, like, it's like they say in like a football match, like, the referee's done a good job when you don't notice him. That's how it should be with umpiring.
Exactly that. I'm not saying that the umpire needs to take any credit, because they shouldn't be taking any credit. The stars are the players, but they need to have a grip on the match from the start. You can't let these sorts of things happen.
Yeah, and then when as it relates to the entertainment, I think I disagree with the whole like Kyrgios bringing crowds in necessarily because he's a bit like, he's emotional on the court and that stuff. I actually think he brings it in for the kind of unpredictable tennis that he actually provides. Like, I actually think that's because when you're watching that match between him and Tsitsipas, like, all that stuff going on outside of the actual match is distracting from the tennis. And like, what I noticed when I was watching it, I was like, well, I don't even know like what's been going on in this match while all this stuff's been going on. And then when it calmed down a bit, I was like, okay, right, I can actually enjoy the match now. Like, I can focus on the tennis. It takes it away, in my opinion, from the tennis.
No, I agree. It does take it away from the tennis. again, I don't want controversy in a way of sort of like having to have rule breaking and stuff like that. But in the instance of Kyrgios, for example, like it's not like he broke the rules beyond sort of swearing in most of the instances, because he didn't hit balls at the crowd. And I agree with him. That is an instant default for me. Like, you shouldn't be allowed to do that. Happened at the US Open with Djokovic that year. Right decision, because it hit the lines judge. Again, it's just simple decisions. Yes, no, in, out. Just like line calls. I don't understand where that boundary keeps going. Like, it's not half in, half out. They just go, yeah, it's in or it's out.
Yeah.
So why are other decisions not like that?
Yeah, well, I think with the whole hitting the ball thing, it, like, in that case, yeah, in my opinion, it was also a default. But I don't think it's always super clear, like whether it would be a default or whether it would be.
No, it's
like
not always super clear. But
in that case, it was.
But you can tell when the way someone's looking at a ball or the body language, you can tell looking at them in tennis. Like, sometimes these things, like a red card in football, it's hard to tell because they all look the same, whether they're going for the ball or the player. But in tennis, when someone's going for the ball to hit it into the court because they're watching a ball. If they're going for something stupid, they look wrong, as it were. Honestly, their body language doesn't look like someone who's trying to make a ball.
No, it is fairly clear when they like, you can see like there's anger there behind.
Yeah.
And like he was lucky that he didn't literally like severely injure someone. It was so close to hitting that person. So
well, this is it. Yeah. Like, he should have been defaulted 3 times, in my opinion, in that match.
Yeah, and I remember in a previous round, Davidovich, he got a point deduction for hitting it out of the ground, and that actually lost in the match as well because it was like the last point. So like it was applied in that instance, but then it's not applied in another instance. So
exactly, and that's the institutional problem.
Yeah, it needs a proper reform. But like, where's the kind of desire for it to happen? Like, these people just seem
exactly. There is no desire because they're making the money are making the money regardless.
Yeah, it's like with the Wimbledon thing. They're like, oh, we could put Kyrgios first on centre court now because actually he's bringing in the viewers because he's being controversial, whether that's actually true or not. And it's like, well, where are your like ethics or morals? Like, it's just it's a joke, really. It doesn't seem to be a desire for anyone to actually like take this thing by the horns and actually shake it up and reform it. It's just kind of like, let's just continue as normal, like you said, at like just making money. So yeah, it's very frustrating. But let us know your thoughts in the comments about this kind of the state of like umpiring and where you view the kind of entertainment of tennis. Like, do you like the fact there's a bit more like needle from these sort of things? Where's the line? All these kind of things. Let us know in the comments.